Hello and welcome to Iraqi Dinar Hub. Today, November 17th, 2025, we're re-looking at a development that has suddenly pulled the Iraqi dinar back into serious global conversation. What's interesting this time is that the attention isn't coming from the usual rumor mills, online buzz, or speculative chat rooms. Instead, the talk is centered on information reportedly coming from an official government source that carries real weight. People are highlighting that this isn't just chatter tied to something documented and publicly recorded. That's what's making this moment feel different, creating a break from the typical noise that usually surrounds this topic. The source everyone is zeroing in on is the Iraqi Gazette, which is basically the country's legal and official record of government actions. It's where Iraq publishes its laws, official decisions, financial instructions, and any regulatory changes. Because the Gazette is the final destination for finalized government actions, anything that appears there is considered fully legal and formally recognized. That's why it's being emphasized so strongly. It's not a blog, not a rumor, and not a maybe. It's the most reliable place to track actual government decisions and economic policy changes. This is being treated as a standout moment because it moves the conversation away from all the unverified predictions people have been seeing for years. Anyone who has followed the dinar space knows how common it is for rumors to circulate through forums, messaging groups, and social channels. But this time, the focus is on something that comes straight from a legally documented source. And because updates from the Gazette are rare in this context, people see it as one of the clearest indicators of what's actually happening behind the scenes. The weight of anything appearing in the Iraqi Gazette can't be overstated. When financial information or directives are officially published there, it means those actions have already been approved and implemented by the government. They're not guesses or interpretations. They're real and legally binding. This makes them far more meaningful than the wave of unverified claims that usually swirl around the dinar. If you're trying to track where Iraq is actually headed economically, this is the kind of source you rely on because it cuts through the noise and gives you facts. What's making this particular Gazette entry stand out is what it reportedly covers: Iraq's official exchange rate and how it ties into the wider economic reforms happening inside the country. Iraq has adjusted its exchange rate before. This update is being viewed as more connected to the broader changes the country has been pushing for over the last several years. Instead of being a short-term tweak, it's being read as part of a longer-term strategy to stabilize and develop the dinar in a sustainable way. Experts point out that when a country posts an exchange rate change in its legal record, it's usually a signal of intent. It shows where the government believes its economy is heading and what direction its policies are moving toward. In other words, this kind of publication isn't just a random administrative step. It's a sign that the country is following a clear plan, confirming publicly that its economic reforms are continuing through proper channels and official oversight, not through speculation. This update also matters because of how it affects the outside world. Once an exchange rate is officially recorded in the Gazette, global banks, international businesses, and regional partners use it as the reference point when evaluating Iraq's financial stability. That rate influences investment decisions, trade agreements, and contract valuations. Even if the rate itself doesn't show a dramatic jump, the fact that it's formally documented signals to the world that Iraq is committed to transparency and economic stability. That's the kind of consistency international partners depend on. According to these reports, this moment is the result of years of slow but targeted financial restructuring in Iraq. The Central Bank of Iraq has been working to control liquidity, tighten compliance, modernize banking rules, and build foreign reserves. These moves might not be flashy, but they're essential for any country trying to strengthen its currency. And because Iraq has been dealing with instability for a long time, these structural steps are especially important in building long-term economic trust. Beyond the central bank's efforts, Iraq's government has been pushing harder on transparency, anti-corruption measures, and oversight reforms. These are the kinds of changes investors watch closely because they signal how predictable and safe a country's financial environment might be. On top of that, Iraq's geopolitical situation has been evolving. There are reports of deeper partnerships with regional and global players, including those involved with multinational economic groups like BRICS, all pointing toward broader financial cooperation and diversification. One of the more catching developments mentioned in these reports is the launch of a government-backed global currency exchange platform. This isn't a random third-party website. It's described as an officially regulated system created to support secure, transparent currency interactions on an international level. A platform like that isn't something governments build for fun. It requires planning, regulation, and oversight. The fact that Iraq is rolling something like this out suggests it's laying the groundwork for long-term international engagement. The creation of this system tells analysts that Iraq isn't just responding to the moment it is planning for the future. Countries don't build internationally compliant exchange platforms unless they are re-preparing for more global exposure and more stable currency interaction. It's a sign that Iraq wants the dinar to be treated with legitimacy and seriousness on the world stage. While this latest Gazette update isn't being presented as a revaluation, it does show steady progress toward global integration. Experts known for relying on documentation rather than speculation, people like Moxie and Goder, reportedly pointing to this development as a meaningful step forward. These analysts emphasize that real economic progress doesn't come from dramatic rumors or last-minute surprises. It comes from consistent reform, infrastructure upgrades, and official publications like the one found in the Gazette. Their message is basically, this is how real progress looks: slow, steady, documented, and structured. For anyone following the dinar, the main advice coming from these reports is to stay grounded and rely only on credible information. The Iraqi Gazette is being highlighted as the #1 source for understanding what is actually happening. That means ignoring hype cycles, avoiding unverified claims, and sticking to official platforms for any transactions. The dinar community has always been a target for rumors and unrealistic promises, so staying level-headed is more important than ever. This update, along with the earlier one from June 12, 2025, is being described as part of a clear pattern of documented progress. These reports say Iraq is steadily laying down the pieces of a large long-term financial overhaul. And while the journey isn't complete, the steps being taken now are viewed as some of the most concrete and meaningful in years. People are being encouraged to approach everything with patience and reasonable expectations, since the biggest mistakes tend to happen when emotions take over. There's also a strong reminder to be cautious of scams, unlicensed brokers, or unregulated platforms, especially when excitement starts building. Positive news often attracts opportunists, and the safest approach is to work only with approved, government-licensed channels. Acting impulsively can lead to bad decisions, especially in a space that has historically been filled with misinformation. Staying patient and sticking to official processes is the smartest approach. Looking at the bigger picture, it's clear that Iraq is going through a major transformation, not just making one-off changes. The central bank has strengthened its monetary policies, raised reserves, and brought its systems closer to international standards. Parliament has been pushing modernization laws and expanding digital capabilities. And geopolitically, Iraq is aligning itself more strategically with global partners focused on long-term economic development. All of these layers together form the foundation for future financial growth. Even if it's still too early to say where everything will ultimately lead.